What's up, guys? My name is Bobby. I'm a sports videographer based out in New England, and today I'm going to give you an insight into my color grading workflow. So here we are in Premiere. This is what my setup looks like. So I got my timeline down here with the program, and then my Lumetri scopes are set up here with effect controls, and then I have Lumetri color over here. So this is after a full color grade. This is basically what my timeline will look like. I have 3 adjustment layers. This is film grain up here. And so now I'm going to show you my full process of color grading. All right, so I'll take one of these clips. I'll take this one here, and I can show you my full process from scratch. All right, so here's the clip. I'm going to go here, bring in an adjustment layer, put over the clip, and then I'm going to hold down Option and duplicate that. So I shoot all my footage in log. As you can see, is very flat and unsaturated right now. And you can see that in the waveform too. So this bottom line here is all gonna be about contrast, white balance, and basically getting it to a good base image. So I'm gonna go into Lumetri color. I come to the curves first. I grab here. I bring down the black point. I'll come here. I bring the middle up a little bit, and then I up the highlights up until I think that's where I want the contrast to be. We'll go about there, and then kind of play around with it a little bit. Keep the midpoints there. Bring the shadows down a little bit, and then I come into the base correction. Here I play with the white balance, so it looks a little warm to me. I'm gonna bring down, make it a little cooler, and then I think I need a little magenta. Let's try that. Yeah, white balance is looking clean to me. I want a little bit more contrast, I think. So I'm gonna up the exposure just a tad. Actually, no, I'll keep the exposure. I'm gonna up the contrast here, but I'm gonna bring down the highlights actually, and then up the shadows, because I want more detail in the shadows, but I want the blacks to be lower. So you can see what that's doing there. And if you want to see what your adjustment layer is doing to the whole clip, you can disable and enable it. So that's the base image. That's with just the base correction. So that's a good starting point. The white balance on all the exposure is set properly for what I want. And then here we're gonna come in to the second layer, and this is all about the LUT. So I have a couple LUTs loaded in here that I use on a bunch of my videos. So for me, I think I'm gonna use this, or for this video, I think I'm gonna use this teal and orange look. You can see that adds a nice little cinematic orange and teal look over the footage. That honestly looks pretty good right out of bat. I'm just gonna look at a couple other LUTs. This one's pretty good too. It's a little darker. That one's a little too intense for me for this video, but I think I'm gonna go with the teal and orange. Yeah, and I think I'm gonna dial this back just a little bit. Right about there looks good for me. And then that's basically it for that segment. So that's the LUT. We can see what it's doing to the whole image. So that's base. That's with the LUT. That's just the base correction, and then this is with the LUT too. And then we're gonna come here, and this top layer is all about the curves. So I'm gonna mess around with these hue versus hue curves. His shirt is looking a little blue to me. I would love to get that a little closer to true black, so I'm gonna bring the blues more towards magenta. You can see it goes from more green to more true black, which I like. And then I think I want to bring up the saturation of these reds here. So I'm gonna click that, up this, really make that and his skin tones pop. And I think I might actually, I want to make this a little closer to true red, but not too much. You can see what that's doing. I always come to the Luma versus Sat, and I go here and then desaturate this. I desaturate all the blacks. It doesn't really do much in this clip at least, but normally blacks normally have like a little bit of tint, and I want to get that out and make sure my blacks are true black. And yeah, that's basically it for the curves there. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take this film grain, which I bought from Ty Rogers. I can link it in the description. So I come here and then I go soft light, and then depending on how much I want on here, I'll duplicate it. I just think it adds like a kind of gritty feel. Especially in this boxing video, I was going for more of a gritty style. So this is the film grain on top. You can see what it does with and without it. It just adds like that texture. That's actually a little bit much for me, so I'm gonna take that off. But yeah, so that's basically the clip. So I'll show you before and after. So that's before, that's after. And let's run through another clip real quick just to show you on a different piece of footage. I'll take this one because it's an outside clip. So this one's a little harder to grade just because it's not inside and you got to deal with a bunch of different colors. So let's bring it down. We can actually take these same two top layers, and then I'm just going to disable them. But I'm going to take another adjustment layer, put it here, and remember, so this bottom one is the base correction. So I'm going to come into Lumetri color, come to the curves. I'm going to bring the blacks to the point where I want them, right up until almost 0 here. Bring the whites up, not too much, just a little bit. And then I'm going to mess with the contrast. So midpoints, like right there. Highlights, probably going to leave the highlights right there, to be honest. And then I'm going to bring down the shadows a little bit, up that contrast. See, before, after. A little too punchy for me. Let's see. Might bring the blacks up a little bit. Alright, that's a good base. It's a good base. And now we got to come into the white balance. White balance outside is always kind of hard. I can bring this white balance selector and see what this does. Yeah, I mean, I think I got the white balance pretty much on point when I shot it. I might try to make it a little bit more blue just to match the kind of vibe from inside. Yeah, I like that. Let me mess around with the tint. That's looking good to me. And now let's mess around with the exposure. So the overall exposure is looking pretty good. I think I could use a tad more contrast. I'm gonna bring down the shadows a bit. I'm also gonna bring down the highlights actually, just because the sky is looking a little blown out. I want to recover some of that. Leave the whites there. Yeah, that's honestly looking like a good start there. And then remember, so this is the LUT. That's actually looking not great to me. I think I'm gonna dial back the intensity. Not a fan of the what it's doing to the grass. So I'm gonna fix that in these curves. So let's start from a blank slate here. Yeah, so I want to fix these greens. So I'm going to take this color selector and I'm going to click these, and then I'm going to bring the hue closer to actual green. I'm going to do that over the whole thing. So you can see that's just bringing those greens from like that orange more towards it's a little bit too much for me actually. It's just bringing it more towards like true green. Yeah, that's looking good to me. And then I want to make this blue pop a little bit more. So let's mess around with the hue. I actually think the hue is good on the blue, but I do want to increase the saturation. So I'm going to come here, grab this. and saturate that a little bit more. So let's see what these curves are doing to it. You know, it doesn't make a huge difference. It's just adding like that extra little touch on the top, you know. Yeah, and then, you know, put the film grain on top of it again. That's looking good to me. So yeah, let's watch this clip back. Looking good to me. And then, so basically from there, just throughout my whole video, I'll basically bring this LUT down. It'll normally stay the same across the whole video. Sometimes I have to change the intensity on certain clips. And then I just have to go through and do the individual corrections on each base layer. That's why it's all cut up like this. Some clips, if they're exposed the same, I can do the same one across multiple. So as you can see, like this one stretches across multiple clips, which is convenient and saves time. And I keep the curve adjustments pretty much the same across all clips just because I want to create like that consistent look. And this set was actually pretty easy because the lighting was pretty consistent throughout, so I didn't have to make too many changes to match clips and stuff. But yeah, so that's basically my whole process. And then the only other thing to consider is if you use Premiere, the colors get like desaturated and like decontrasted when you export. So I always add an adjustment layer on top and stretch it across the entire thing. And then I will come into Lumetri, just go to base correction. I'll up the exposure like 0.2. Put contrast at around 23 and then bring the shadows down to 17 or so. And then I'll up the saturation to like 112. It'll look like a little too intense here, but once you export it, it'll actually match the colors in Premiere a little bit better. I don't know why Premiere does that. It's kind of annoying, but oh well. Yeah, but I mean, I hope this helped. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. And I'm definitely going to be trying to post more consistently this summer. So let me know if you have any ideas for future videos.